last week you made a post. It was pretty compelling. You're talking about hooping with MJ. I got to peel back some layers, man. So what's the context? You guys are playing pickup. Is it 2-on-2? Are you playing 5-on-5? Who else is playing? Where are you playing? Why are you calling for the ball? I mean, were you feeling? I mean, what's going on, man?
Question on why did I call for the ball? All of it's a great question, man. What an incredible experience and opportunity I had when I was at Maryland. Jordan has a camp in Santa Barbara at UCSB for kids, and he invites every summer, at least he did when I was in Maryland. He identifies the top 20, 25 players in the country, and he reaches out and invites you to come to his camp for a week, and you train with the other players. And then the main purpose is every night you play a 5-on-5 pickup game in front of all the parents and all the kids. And Jordan played with us a majority of the nights. Usually he would play 2 or 3 times a week, and the other nights we would just play amongst ourselves. But it was great players at the time. I mean, it was, Darren Williams, Chris Paul, Rashad McCants from North Carolina, who was a big name at that time. Mm-hmm. Sean May, mm-hmm. Tyler Hansborough. I mean, a lot of guys. JJ Redick, mm-hmm. who was my roommate. We stayed at a frat house right on campus. So, I mean, not only was it a phenomenal time for us, for me, it was before my junior year and before my senior year. So it was the summer after my sophomore year and the summer after my junior year. So I went for 2 summers. So I was able to be a deer in the headlights year one. And then, it's incredible with the game of basketball. Once you get in between the lines, you start to feel comfortable, and MJ always made us feel super comfortable. He's a really, really fun guy to be around, always cracking jokes. That's one of the things that's so cool for me about this new documentary, The Last Dance, is because people are getting a chance to see kind of how Jordan was behind the scenes, and social media was different then. So you didn't have that behind the scenes look and really idea to feel like you get to know somebody like you do with athletes now. There's so much exposure to athletes now. I feel like as a fan, you feel like you know the guy a little bit. You know more about him off the court. You know how they are. You hear about how they are with their teammates. And so he was always a guy who would bust your chops a little bit, and he would get after me quite a bit. One of his favorite things to talk about, which I mentioned in that post, was I was a very dominant left-handed player, and I always have been. And his favorite joke was if I could spend $1 million on buying you a right-hand Caner, I would. What's funny is the fact that he even said my name as a super fan, and he's my idol, was super cool. But the funny thing about it, he's the only person who's ever called me Caner. Like, growing up, my friends called me Medley. Okay. In Maryland, it was always Caner-Medley or obviously Nick or whatever. And he just would yell Caner, which was pretty funny. But it was an incredible experience, and he would just give us so much gear in general. He would come, and this guy who's known now as Worldwide Wes, who I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a guy who's always been Jordan's right-hand man. Mm-hmm. People were looking at Wes for the potential GM job when Leon Rose just got the president job at the Knicks. They were talking about potentially bringing in Wes as a consultant because he's just, very well respected and liked, and he was always with Jordan, and he was super cool to be around, super funny. So he'd come in with duffel bags of gear, and this was all. A couple people asked me, like, was it retros, like the 5s and the 3s and the 11s, the ones we all love? It was all the 20s and the 21s. So it was the shoes that were coming out at that time. Man. So he wanted college athletes to be wearing his new shit. So he would just give us literally duffel bags and duffel bags of shit. And I would still joke with him that I need some gear. In Maine, we don't sell Jordan gear. I'd fuck with him about that. Right. Sorry for cursing.
No, you're good, man. No, you're good.
And so one of the times, like I kind of articulated in the post, was I was just reflecting on the story, and he yelled my name, and he kind of like waved me over, and I went out there and grabbed a bunch of shoes, and then on my way in, he yells Caner again. I look back, and he's like, "Don't you ever call for the ball again?" And didn't even really laugh, like dead serious. Don't call for the ball again. And then gets into his truck and drives off. So. Just thinking back on it, man, I mean, in the moment, it was, the first year I was extremely starstruck. And then he just really made us feel comfortable. So the second summer, you know, when I reflect on other times, he took a bunch of guys out on his boat, which unfortunately which being from Maine, it sucks. I get super motion sick and seasick, so I couldn't go. But I mean, this guy's taken 20 college basketball players out on a huge yacht. I mean, we really had the time of our lives there. Looking back on it, it was definitely the best experience that I had as a college player. So, yeah, man, it was a pretty crazy story. And why did I call for the ball? I mean, it was literally, you just start feeling comfortable. And to be honest with you, I was wide open. I mean, I wasn't over there like calling for the ball with like somebody on me.
Sure.
Here, swing it, MJ. It was like, yo, like I'm wide open over here.
I got you.
He kind of looked at me and like, yeah, right, and then kept going ISO. I mean, because he did. Let me tell you something. He did not pass the ball at all. You think that he'd go out there playing with college guys and, you know what I mean, kind of let them shine. He was going at every single guy he possibly could, calling everybody out to come guard him. Numerous times he called me out to come guard him. And, you know, he's just completely unguardable. You know what I mean? Because he would literally take it from the top of the key, going very slowly, dribbling, then kind of backing you down, putting his shoulder on you, an arm's reach, and then really just stop and just kind of shot fake a little and kind of get you to bite. And you get a little bit closer to him, he'd kind of push you off. And every time he got a shot off, I mean, he would shoot in these settings. I mean, he'd shoot 80, 90%, you know, with everything he was doing, because he was still sharp at that time. I mean, this is 2004, 2000, so I went in 2002, so 2003 to 2005. So this was right around the same time that he was with the Wizards and getting done, you know, so he could still, I mean, the guy could still really, really, really play at an elite level, could have still played in the NBA. If I'm not mistaken, I think he got done a year or two before that.
So, what was, man, that is great. We saw last weekend the Jordan rules. So when he's like, yo, Caner, come on, you want some? What are your rules? Are you trying to force him to the to the elbow? Are you trying to work him? You trying to take away? I mean, what do you do, right? Like, there's like, what's your attack?
First and foremost is don't foul him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm not trying to be out here hacking. You know what I mean? But man, it's just in the moment. It's kind of hard to explain because it's very surreal. You know, you've got a guy in front of you who, you know, you're not necessarily thinking about all the other times you've seen him and looked up to him. You're just enjoying that moment. Sure. You know, and just, you know, trying to get a hand up. That's all you can really do.
Bro, that is wild, man. That is
and
wild.
To come full circle on it, I did a workout for the Charlotte Bobcats when I was coming out of college. And it was me, Rudy Gay, and Adam Morrison. They ended up drafting Adam Morrison. And it was a couple other guys that were in the workout. And he said it to me again, because I made a joke to him. I said, man, I've been working on the right. And he worked us out. He actually ran the workout. And he's like, we'll see, because you're not scoring in any of the games unless you finish with your right hand, which I didn't do, obviously. Once it got competitive, I was right back to the left. But sure. I did finish a couple times with my right hand and smile, and he was just shaking his head like, you're not fooling me. I'm not drafting your ass. You got no right hand.
Right, well, because he's a GM owner, right, at that point, and that's when they took Morrison like 7 or 9 or something like that.
They took him in the top 5. I think they took him number 3.
Oh, okay, yeah, out of Gonzaga. You played it.
He basically brought me in to be a body to kind of to defend, you know, a similar body type as Morrison, because they had a couple first round picks, and you know, he gave me some really, really good compliments. You know, at the workout that I'll never forget. He told me, he said, look, if I had a late first or second round pick, he said, I would take you in a heartbeat. He said, keep working. And it literally, like, I remember I got on the phone with my dad after, and I was damn near in tears, you know, because to hear that from him, you know, meant a lot. But it was just an incredible experience, man. Incredible experience. And, you know, I hope that we cross paths again, you know, as I transition out of playing and I want to be involved in the game of basketball in some way. And I hope we cross paths again, because, you know, he was just such a great leader and such a great person to be around.